The relationship between King Charles and Queen Camilla has always been one of the most controversial chapters in the history of the British monarchy. From the early days when they secretly met in the shadows, while Charles was still married to Princess Diana, to the years of relentless public outrage, their love story has never escaped the whirlwind of scandal. They were seen as the embodiment of betrayal, the central reason behind the collapse of Charles and Diana's marriage. And Camilla's name has forever been tied to the deep wounds of the late princess. Yet, despite the fury of the public and decades of harsh criticism, Charles and Camilla held on to each other, step by step advancing toward the throne. Over the years, they tried to reshape their image, to prove that time could soften the pain of the past. And in the end, Camilla stood beside Charles as queen consort at his coronation, a victory that remains as divisive as it is dramatic. But now, just when it seemed they had overcome everything, fresh rumors, new scandals, and rising doubts once again cast a shadow over their marriage. Could it be that the secrets of the past were never truly buried? And can a love born from betrayal withstand its ultimate test? In tonight's video, we revisit the turbulent journey of Charles and Camilla, from those secret rendezvous to their defiant determination to be together. And now, as the dark cloud of scandal once again looms over the royal family. On the calm morning of June 25th, 2020, Buckingham Palace awoke as usual. Birds flew in the sky, guards swapped positions quietly, and a peaceful atmosphere enveloped the royal residence. However, a surprising event disturbed the tranquility within the king's private chambers. It did not start with a loud noise or a public scandal, but with a simple folder, thin, blank, and placed among routine palace documents. King Charles III began his day as usual, reaching for his cup of Earl Grey tea. While doing so, he stumbled upon a strange folder that piqued his curiosity. Inside were clear, high-quality photographs, dated May 11th to May 13th, taken at a private estate near Windsor. The woman in the pictures was unmistakable. Camilla. The man was Edward Langley, a longtime employee of the royal household, known for his loyalty and trustworthiness. Yet, in these images, he was seen embracing Camilla in a private room, sharing wine and intimate moments. It was clear they were not merely old friends or colleagues, but were sharing secret moments hidden from Charles, who believed Camilla was on a solo wellness retreat for peace and clarity. What Charles saw did not bring him calm. Still, he paused, hoping there was an explanation to ease the intense pain in his chest. The surveillance was not the work of a gossip magazine or an intrusive photographer. It was conducted internally. The palace's security team, rarely discussed, had verified everything. The photographs were authentic. Edward's attendance at the getaway was confirmed by his travel records. When he arrived, when he left. The evidence was too precise to dismiss. The photographs were just the beginning, prompting Charles to dig deeper to uncover the truth behind Camilla's secret visit. He sought clarity, but instead found a trail leading to royal security concerns. Investigators traced Camilla's movements and uncovered a significant date, April 22nd. She had accessed the royal heirloom vault for heritage research, a routine activity. However, the locked trunk left the palace with her that week without proper documentation or scrutiny. The trunk vanished and was never seen again. Charles instructed investigators to follow the trunk and the man. That was all he said when the investigation began. As they dug deeper, pieces fell into place. The suite near Windsor, where Camilla had been with Edward, also housed the mysterious trunk. No staff entered during their visit, and no one questioned it. Surveillance revealed an unusual incident. On April 23rd, a vehicle belonging to Camilla was parked outside the suite for nearly an hour. A trunk was removed but never returned. Weeks passed, and the investigation grew. On July 1st, a report was delivered to Charles, short but damning. It stated that Camilla had entered the vault without permission, using an override code inactive since 2014, which should not have worked. On that day, two valuable items disappeared: Diana's caterpillar earrings and the Spencer choker. worth over $650,000, to Charles as a tribute to Diana, they were priceless. These heirlooms, once safely kept under velvet and glass, were now missing without a trace. Camera footage from Clarence's house showed Camilla's car parked near the loading area for 45 minutes on the same day. No documentation was submitted, no reasons given, just silence. The details of a disturbing story began to coalesce, one nobody wanted to accept. At its heart was not just betrayal, but something far more agonizing. Camilla had not only disrespected her marriage, but had taken priceless items from the monarchy, items tied to Diana's memory, the crown, and history. As more evidence emerged, another discovery surfaced. Camilla's secure tablet, discreetly found in her private room, contained messages. These were simple but carried deep significance. Her communications with Edward suggested more than a romantic relationship. They hinted at a desire for freedom and possession. There was no intention to return the trunk or explain its absence. Charles felt the puzzle was complete. What he had quietly suspected had solidified into undeniable truth. He had concrete evidence of his partner's infidelity. But it was more than that. There was theft involved. His legacy had been stolen silently, right under his nose. The betrayal came not from an outsider, but from someone within his home, the woman who had once supported him through difficult times, now fading into a shadow of history. No alarm sounded. No one shouted. The betrayal was subtle, disguised with smiles and elegance, but it was real. Charles did not react immediately. Instead, he took his time, carefully reviewing reports and timelines. He sat alone, staring at the spot where Diana's choker once rested, knowing a confrontation was inevitable, but must be handled with care. He was not just a betrayed man, he was a king. The discussion had shifted from marriage to the future of the monarchy, centered on trust, dignity, and the core values of the royal family. Camilla's actions had caused damage, threatening the palace's traditional history. Despite his pain, Charles knew he had to protect it. The impending confrontation would be quiet but forceful, not a public outburst, but carried with the full authority of royal duty. It was no longer about love, but about what had been taken and preventing it from happening again. The evening everything changed. On the quiet evening of July 1st, 2025, a serious situation unfolded at Buckingham Palace. While the rest of the palace was peaceful, tension brewed in one of its private rooms. King Charles III summoned Camilla to meet him in the Blue Room. The meeting was unscheduled and unpredicted, but critical. Upon her arrival, the atmosphere shifted. The large doors closed as she entered, and staff were dismissed with a gesture. What followed broke royal protocol. This was not a typical meeting between a king and queen, nor a friendly chat, but an intense interrogation. Charles remained composed, speaking steadily without yelling or blaming. He let a tense silence build before placing folders on the table, each containing time-stamped photographs, confidential reports, security records, and personal messages, all pointing to the same conclusion. He asked a single, calm question. Who is he? Camilla was caught off guard, visibly shaken. She paused, struggling to respond, attempting to describe Edward as a past acquaintance and mentioning a health-focused getaway while Charles was occupied with parliamentary duties. Her tone was uncertain, her explanation disjointed and unconvincing. But Charles had more to reveal. He presented another folder with detailed vault access records, showing Camilla had entered the royal heirloom vault multiple times between April 18th and April 22nd, using a special code reserved for trusted royals. She signed in at 9:42 AUCM and left just after 1 p.m. On one occasion, she left with a trunk that was never inspected or returned. Camilla paled, her lips trembling, unable to meet his gaze. She tried to maintain composure, but Charles pressed on. This was no longer about gossip or personal matters. It was a violation of something sacred. He emphasized that Diana's name still resonated, not just in history, but in the palace, in public memory, and in the hearts of those who cherished her. He stepped closer, not in anger, but in sorrow. This was not just about betrayal, but about the manipulation of Diana's legacy. Then came another blow. Diana's pearl earrings from 1986 were missing from the vault. No one had authorized their removal, yet days earlier, they were seen on Camilla's daughter at a public event. Charles demanded an explanation, but Camilla offered only tears, claiming it was a misunderstanding with no ill intent. Trust, however, had been shattered by years of repeated hurts. Charles had spent years repairing the monarchy's image, striving for harmony after past pain. This event reopened old wounds. That evening, he spoke quietly to a loyal aide, not in anger but in exhaustion, noting how the betrayal tarnished the memory of two important women in his life, his mother and the woman he could not protect. Charles stayed awake that night, sitting alone in his room. A fire burned softly, casting golden flickers on the walls. Memories of Diana, her face, voice, and warnings flooded back like whispers in the smoke. By 7 Huabame the next morning, he made his decision. Camilla's access to the royal vaults was revoked. Her role in confidential councils was terminated, and her name was removed from ceremonial permissions within 48 hours. There would be no discussion or press release, just silence. Yet the effects rippled outward. In another part of the palace, Princess Anne had been watching. Always observant, she noticed the shifting atmosphere, the glances, hushed conversations, and missing heirlooms. She had chosen silence, waiting for the right moment. That moment had arrived. The Pearls of Truth on June 29, 2025, Buckingham Palace buzzed with a special atmosphere. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow. A small lunch celebrated Princess Charlotte's charity milestone, attended by only 32 people, mostly family and close aides, with no reporters or fanfare, just speeches and a refined celebration. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, arrived at 12:14 p.m., bringing calm grace to the room. She wore a light blue dress that Diana had worn in 1995 for a charity event, a deliberate tribute. Every detail of her outfit was thoughtful, but something caught her eye immediately. Laura Lopez, Camilla's daughter, sat by the north window in a plain dress, relaxed. What drew Catherine's attention were her earrings, simple, with 3 pearls and diamond caps, shimmering softly in the light, unmistakably familiar. Catherine's instincts sharpened. She knew these earrings were not ordinary. Calmly, she asked her assistant to retrieve the catalog of family heirlooms from the archive. The catalog arrived quickly, and she reviewed it confidently. The earrings were documented, a 1986 gift from Qatar to Diana, worn at the London Opera on October 14th. Their serial number and class design were unique, unmistakably Diana's, intended for Princess Charlotte's future inheritance, to be given on her 18th birthday in 2033. Yet here they were, worn by someone with no claim to them. Instead of reacting impulsively, Catherine observed carefully. At 12:42 p.m., amid casual conversation and light laughter, she turned to Laura and asked calmly, "Can you tell me where you got those earrings?" The question hung in the silence, carrying weight. Laura, startled, struggled to respond, explaining they were a gift from her mother, passed down and now hers. Catherine said nothing more, handing the earrings to the palace gem expert, alerted due to recent security concerns. This was routine, but today it felt momentous. By 1:00 p.m., the results confirmed the earrings were genuine, last documented in March 2023 and never meant to leave the vault. The discovery was undeniable, and the room fell silent. Later that evening, Prince William returned from another event at 10:08 p.m., unaware of the day's developments. Catherine greeted him softly, whispering a single word, "Confirmed." The atmosphere shifted. Unease spread through the palace. Staff moved cautiously. Doors closed carefully, and messages were conveyed wordlessly. King Charles received a private message that afternoon, opting not to attend the lunch. He met urgently with legal advisors. The issue was no longer just about jewelry, it was deeply personal. That night, William spoke with conviction, describing the act as an attempt to claim a piece of history not rightfully theirs, achieved not through birthright, duty, or love, but through deceit. To Charles, this was more than disobedience. It was a betrayal of the symbolic value of the jewelry, a connection to the past. Seeing it worn by someone outside the royal lineage was not just a fashion misstep, but an erasure of history. The day trust was broken. On the calm afternoon of July 3rd, 2025, an unusual event unfolded at Buckingham Palace. No reporters or news crews stood outside. No cameras flashed. Inside, a serious discussion took place in a secure room with only 5 people. King Charles III, Prince William, Princess Catherine, Princess Anne, and a royal advisor. The door was closed, and no one else was permitted entry. The tension was palpable. Not a typical royal gathering for events or public duties, but a grave matter. The atmosphere was cold, almost piercing. Everyone understood the weight of the situation. Charles sat at the head of the table, before him files containing photographs, security records, gemologist reports, and notes on heirloom discrepancies. He opened the meeting without emotion, stating that the issue was no longer a family matter, but one of royal protocol and centuries-old tradition. The evidence was clear. Someone had acted in a way that could not be ignored or undone. Princess Anne, always forthright, was visibly furious, her face pale, hands clenched. Known as the rational, stern voice of the family, her anger was evident despite her silence. She saw the misuse of their family's history, the exploitation of grief, and the disrespect to their mother's memory. William sat motionless, his face unreadable, speaking only once in a steady voice that conveyed quiet suffering and resolute strength. Catherine sat beside him, holding a new inventory of the royal vault. Her silence was powerful, radiating strength and readiness. Charles issued 5 direct orders. Camilla's palace access was suspended effective July 4th. She could no longer enter royal residences freely. Her communication team was reassigned. Vault and archive access codes were changed before midnight, and her security detail was withdrawn. Though she retained the title of Queen Consort, her royal duties were stripped. The announcement was not public, no cameras, no podiums. It was a private family decision with profound implications for the monarchy. That night, Camilla was alone at Clarence's house. A sealed letter from Charles was delivered, ending with 3 handwritten words: "Trust has been lost." The next day, the palace quietly relocated Camilla. She would leave without fanfare, but royal secrets are hard to keep. By 6 a.m. on July 6th, the Times front page blared, "Queen Camilla in secret affair in jewel theft scandal." Photographs from the Windsor retreat in May 2025 showed Camilla hand in hand with a man who was not her husband, in private gardens away from public view. Vault logs revealed unauthorized entries and missing heirlooms. A striking image juxtaposed Camilla's daughter, Laura Lopes, with Diana, both wearing the 1986 Qatar diamond drop earrings, never meant to leave the vault. Social media erupted. Hashtags like #HadCheatingQueen, #Diana deserved better, and #NotMyQueen trended globally. A viral video comparing Laura's earrings to Diana's garnered nearly 5 million views in 12 hours. The scandal became a national heartbreak, not about jewelry but about memory, history, and the beloved Princess Diana. Within the palace, staff confirmed Camilla's duties were revoked. Leaked emails showed royal teams scrambling to reorganize and brace for backlash. The BBC interrupted programming for a special "The Queen Who Crossed the Line." Tabloid headlines screamed "Legacy Looted" and "Camilla's Final Fall." A YouGov survey on July 7th showed Camilla's approval rating plummeting to 21%, the lowest since 2005, while Catherine soared to 85%. Princess Charlotte emerged as a symbol of hope, embodying the public's desire for a protected legacy. Many felt justice had been served, correcting past wrongs for Diana and the nation that adored her. The focus shifted from scandal to closure. King Charles, in his private study, signed a document making Camilla's exile permanent. No return, no forgiveness. Once trust is broken, it cannot be repaired, he wrote. The monarchy will move forward with clarity, not shame. The crown's legacy will be protected, and the past will not be forgotten. The quiet fall of a queen. On July 7, 2025, a pivotal moment occurred in the British monarchy. At 8:15 a.m., King Charles III summoned his private secretary, Sir Giles Norbury, to his study. Though fatigued, the king was resolute, handing over a confidential directive that would reshape royal history. Camilla, once his steadfast companion, was to be excluded from royal life. Her fall was not a spectacle, but a quiet announcement. Her ceremonial roles were revoked. She was barred from royal events. Her name was removed from programs, and vault access was denied. Communication with the royal family ceased. Though she retained the title of Queen Consort, it was hollow. She was stripped of all significance. By 6 p.m., May's palace security had changed digital locks and reset biometric systems. Camilla's name was removed from internal lists. Her Clarence House staff dismissed discreetly. Her belongings were packed, and she was driven to Raymil House, her private estate in Ladcock, Wiltshire, barred from royal properties without the king's written consent. She was effectively exiled, quietly and painfully. At Raymil, Camilla spent 2 days alone, no interviews, no staff. Her children, Tom and Laura, visited briefly on July 9th, leaving quickly to avoid media attention, distancing themselves from her. Her driver described the ride as the quietest he'd ever experienced. Camilla, pale and expressionless, stared out the window, a ghost of her former self. Charles wrote a private note to his trusted advisors, not meant for public eyes but rumored throughout the palace. He spoke of duty, history, and legacy, emphasizing that no one, not even those closest to him, was above the monarchy's history. He paid tribute to those who shaped the crown with grace and strength. The note sits in his office beside portraits of Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana from 1982, their significance unmistakable. As Camilla faded, public focus shifted to Catherine. On July 8, 2025, she entered the royal vault at Windsor Castle at 10:30 am with Lady Eleanor Moore, the crown's head archivist. In the vault's cold air, surrounded by centuries of history, they secured Diana's artifacts, the 1981 Spencer choker, the 1900 sapphire brooch, and a letter Diana wrote to William before her 1997 passing. Each item was inspected, recorded, and restored to its place. New locks and biometrics were implemented, with access restricted to Catherine and the future steward mentoring Charlotte. Catherine added an envelope to the vault, inscribed with a delicate message to Charlotte, expressing love and strength in memory. The moment was quiet but profound, described by witnesses as more impactful than any speech. It was about preserving Diana's legacy, securing Charlotte's future, and protecting the monarchy's integrity. That day, Kensington Palace released 2 photos, Catherine standing confidently before the vault doors and young Charlotte smiling, holding a framed picture of Diana. The images went viral, shared 32 million times in 2 days. The hashtag legacy secured trended, and Catherine was celebrated not just as a princess, but as a guardian of history. A July 9th survey showed 85% of the public wanted Catherine to have more influence in royal decisions, with 72% believing she should be queen in her own right, chosen by the people. She had become more than a duchess or princess. She was the mother of a future queen, the unspoken pillar uniting the royal family. Her influence stemmed not from authority, but from intent. Closing the vault marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. The silent fall of Camilla. On July 10th, 2025, the world buzzed with Camilla's story, not quietly anymore. Newspapers ran the bold headlines. Talk shows dissected details, and the internet overflowed with stories. What began as a small scandal had become a crisis, unearthing hidden truths about the monarchy. Camilla's betrayal revealed more than one mistake. It exposed years of concealed actions. The 1993 phone call scandal resurfaced, no longer a private matter but evidence of infidelity and broken promises during Diana's struggles. The public reassessed it with no forgiveness. Other stories emerged. Undocumented vault visits in 2017 and 2021, once dismissed as heritage tours, were now questioned. Whistleblowers from Clarence House revealed undocumented withdrawals, missing paperwork, and odd changes in royal item ownership. Two Victorian brooches and Georgian sapphire cufflinks, meant to be preserved, were traced to a 2022 Geneva auction, sold under false names in secretive transactions. A pattern, not a one-time error. Camilla's allies distanced themselves. The Royal PR Consortium ended their partnership. Her memoir was shelved, and Clarence House staff sought reassignment. Her personal assistant and stylist left, and her family, Annabelle, Tom Parker Bowles, and Laura Lopes, withdrew from public life, facing financial scrutiny. The name Camilla, once tied to royal transformation, became a cautionary tale. Her support system crumbled, advisors, publicists, and elegance replaced by empty chairs and unanswered calls. The monarchy itself delivered the final blow. On July 12th, Camilla's profile was quietly removed from the royal website. No announcement, just erasure. Her role as a working royal beside Charles was deleted, a definitive statement that she was no longer part of the monarchy's future. As her spotlight faded, Catherine's grew, not through speeches, but through dignity, loyalty, and grace. The rise of a true queen. On July 13th, 2025, no grand announcements or royal fanfare occurred. Instead, Princess Catherine and Princess Charlotte visited a modest Oxford charity focused on children's literacy. Wearing simple attire, they exuded kindness, their presence calming a room filled with books and laughter. Without speeches, their actions spoke. The image of Catherine helping a child read while Charlotte stood by went viral, garnering 40 million views in a day. It resonated not for sensationalism but for purity. Catherine brought hope without words, showing that amid royal chaos, peace and healing were possible. British newspapers shifted from scandal to celebration, with headlines like "The Crown is safe again" and "Kate the Great." The public saw her not just as a role but as a destiny fulfilled. Special programs compared Diana's kindness to Catherine's quiet strength, not as competition, but as admiration. Wethrin carried Diana's legacy forward. The Telegraph posed a bold question. Why could a queen consort's title be revoked in disgrace but not granted in honor? A July 14th survey showed 72% of Britons supported Catherine's formal coronation, not just by lineage, but by merit. The palace mood shifted. Though Charles grieved, he had not spoken to Camilla since July 4th. His silence was powerful, and he began reviewing the Royal Succession Council to secure Catherine's status, ensuring it would not be doubted or delayed. Princess Anne overhauled heirloom management, correcting past errors. Prince William prepared for more ceremonial duties by early 2026. The monarchy was not crumbling, but rebuilding, quietly, without fanfare, focused on strength, simplicity, and clarity. Camilla, now at Raymil House, was a ghost of her former self. Her name was absent from palace documents, her signature gone from events. Her children's businesses failed, their accounts frozen. The media, once cautious, now openly criticized. Her story was not just scandal, it was collapse. The palace issued no comments, none were needed. The public had decided Catherine was their queen. Camilla's loss was total, not just personal, but of everything she once believed in.